Let's be real, sewing is an expensive hobby. All the fabric, patterns, tools, it can really add up. What if I told you you can actually save money sewing? In today's video, I'm going to share my best money saving tips for sewing so you don't have to break the bank while you're making garments that fit you perfectly. Let's dive in. First up, fabric. Fabric stores can be so dangerous for the wallet. We want everything, but I try to shop strategically and only buy the things I'm going to use. I keep my stash extremely limited, and I make sure that I go through all the fabric in my stash before I start buying new things. I stick with versatile fabrics that I'll actually use and avoid the impulse buys. Check out this video here on how I actually choose my fabric. And I also have a download in the description below that gives a list of all my favorite online fabric stores. I try to always shop on sale. Almost all the online shops that I frequent have sales pretty regularly. So I always am on the lookout for that. On occasion, I really want something now that I need to make and I won't buy on a sale, but it's very infrequent. And if you shop in person, you can check out the remnant bin. It's not something that I typically do, but I know a lot of people have a lot of success there. But again, don't overbuy, because even though it might be on a great sale, if you don't use it, it's a waste of money. Many people love going to thrift stores to get things like bed sheets or curtains that they can use for a garment, or just simply upcycling other garments, turn it into something else. I think it's a great way and it's very inexpensive. And I like to make the most of my patterns, because patterns can be very expensive. If you have to buy a pattern for every garment that you make, it can get costly. There are a lot of online resources that offer free patterns. Mood has a lot of free sewing patterns. You can see here, they even have them sorted by different types of patterns. So I would definitely encourage you to come through here, and I'm sure you can find something that you would like, or something you could just change up a little bit if it's not exactly what you're looking for. Gives you all kinds of information about how much you need to purchase. So I think it's an excellent resource to find some free sewing patterns. Fabricsstore.com also has a lot of free sewing patterns. They seem to focus here on linen, so a lot of their sewing patterns are great for natural fibers. There's so many really cute outfits here. They're all free for download. Gives you a lot of nice information about the skill level and those sorts of things, and recommends some fabrics to pair with it. And this peppermint is, they do have, they say you can pay what you can, so you can pay anywhere 5, 10, 15, or 20. But if you go down to the below, and if you subscribe to their site here, then you can get some sewing patterns for free. Here it says 2 sewing patterns for free. So that's a good way to get maybe a few sewing patterns. And the last one I have here is Tiana's Closet, has a bunch of free sewing patterns as well. And let's see here, you can download it, gives you a little information about it. So there's lots of really great resources to get some free patterns, and I would encourage you to learn how to at least modify these patterns so you can make a lot of different designs with them. And reuse the patterns you already have. You either can take the pattern design, and if you put it with a completely different type of fabric, it'll give you a completely different look, or just make some minor modifications. You can change the neckline, you can make it maybe a little bit more of a flare, so you do not need to buy a new pattern every single time you want to make a different design. And that would be a great way to start learning pattern making, by just making some smaller modifications to your existing patterns. But my favorite is drafting my own. If you have your own sloper, you can create endless patterns out of that. just the cost of some paper, which you can get very inexpensive paper. I have a huge roll that I did not pay that much for that will last me for years. So that is the way I like to do it. And if you want to see how you can get your hands on a sloper, check out this video here. Invest in the right tools, but not too many. It's so easy to get sucked into trying to get every gadget out there because it's so much fun, but you really don't need that many tools to get started. My favorites, what I would call essentials, are a really good pair of fabric shears that you only use for cutting your fabric. Of course, a seam ripper is our best friend. I would get pins. I do like quality pins. I do think you should try to get good quality tools. None of these are expensive. Even my scissors were, I think, $20 or so. They were not expensive. And these pearl headed pins are my favorite rather than plastic, and you can also iron over them if you need to. And if you're just going to get one measuring, I would get the measuring tape. It's a little bit more versatile. And of course, you need a hand needle, which most people have. So I would say, besides your sewing machine, those are the basics. If you want to go a little bit beyond that, I do like a rotary cutter. I think this makes it a lot easier to cut out your fabric. And of course, if you're going to do pattern making, like I love to do, having a French curve is very, very useful. And I also like having a clear ruler besides just the measuring tape. So those would be a few extras if you want to spend a little bit more money. So it isn't an initial upfront investment for tools, but all these things I showed you were very inexpensive and they will last you for years and years. If you want to see all my favorite tools, download this list I created, link in the description below. Or if you want to see which tools are gathering dust in my studio, check out this video here. I try to reduce waste and maximize my materials. So let's talk about scraps. We always have scraps when we're done with the project. Sometimes I have very few scraps because I will buy just the bare amount that I think I'm going to need. That is a risk because there's sometimes that I'm really twisting my pattern pieces around to make sure that I can get everything I need. So, but we have scraps and there's lots of things you can do with scraps. You can line, create a pocket for, in your skirt with these extra fabric pieces. You can make small bags. You can piece them together to create larger things. Watch this video here to get ideas of what you can make with scraps. I also created a tutorial on 3 of the ideas, and you can get the link to those projects in the description below. Having every color of thread under the rainbow is not necessary. You can start with basic colors such as black and white and maybe a beige. That's what I started with my serger, particularly since you need 4 big spools of serger thread. So I just started with the basics and then I've been adding to it over time. But the same thing with your sewing machine. You do not need to have every single color. I do think it's important to get good quality thread because if you buy cheap thread, it does cause a lot of problems like breaking and tangling and so forth. So I wouldn't recommend buying inexpensive thread. Instead, just stick with some basic colors. I think one of the best money-making tips is to learn mending. Hem those pants, bring in a waist if you've lost some weight. If I have holes, I mend the holes closed. So it really does preserve my clothing so it lasts a much longer time. I like to think strategically before sewing. I try to avoid impulse sewing. So I carefully plan out my projects, which fabric I need, what type of garment I think I'm going to use more. And then that helps reduce waste through failed projects. So all of those time and cost going into a garment that you never wear is a terrible waste. And off the back of that is just sewing things that are very versatile and you're going to wear a lot. I try not to sew really one-off projects unless I have a very special event that I have to go to that maybe I'll only wear that once, but otherwise most of the clothing in my wardrobe I wear all the time. If you haven't yet seen my first video about whether sewing your own clothes is cheaper than buying them, check out this video here. Which one was your favorite tip? Let me know in the comments below. And if you've enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe.